Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans? And welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews. And this week on the show, we're going to be talking about Chapter 22 of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, Guns for Hire, as well as Star Wars Celebration is only hours away. And we've got a special preview report coming to you from the UK. Super excited about that. My name is Chris, and joining me on the show, it is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, I'm feeling the hype. We're mere hours, literally hours. It's like middle of the night for you guys over in London. I'm assuming most of you, if not all of you, are not watching this because you need your sleep, okay? Get prepared for celebration. You don't need to be sitting up watching this dumb podcast. So definitely get some rest. Enjoy the show tomorrow. And yeah, I'm probably waking up at 5 a.m. to watch the Twitterverse. And I'm not going to stream that stupid Lucasfilm panel. So I guess I'll be waking up at 5 a.m. to read tweets, but I can't wait.
I can't wait as well. I'm gonna be getting up. It's 5 a.m. Well, the panel starts at like a live stream starts at 5:30 Pacific, but that's
right
after the convention's been going for a few hours for some reason. So there's stuff happening before the live stream.
There's a whole morning.
Yeah. So I don't understand quite what they're doing there, but basically the point is if you live on the East Coast, you're probably not going to bed tonight. That's the point.
Just accept it.
But if you want to be around for that. Also joining us, it is Raeside.
G'day there. Great to be back for another episode. My good gracious, when Bad Batch finished, I thought our days of mass disputes on this podcast specifically was over. But I think they have just begun with this episode. Very excited to get into the discussion, what we all think of Chapter 22. It's going to be very good. And yeah, of course, I woke up at about 6 a.m. today because I'll be getting up around then for the next 4 days, 6 a.m. To catch up on all the news. So it's like my body was getting ready. It was like, Hannah, let's give you a test run of getting up this time because you're going to be doing it for the next 4 days. I'm so ready, so excited for all the news that's going to come. It's going to be a good time.
See, people are like acclimating their bodies in London, getting to London early so that they're not tired during celebration. And there's you still doing that when you aren't going.
Other side of the planet. I'm like, let's go. It's activation time.
The rest of the week.
Oh my goodness. That's absolutely hilarious. Oh, the way that your tone when you talked about let's discuss our thoughts together. It was kind of like a teacher who's brought kind of two students together who they're having a disagreement. Like a counselor. Like. Let's discuss our different opinions, guys.
That's what I feel like.
At least one of us has had some bad behavior online on the past few hours, and maybe they need to be called out for it. It's not me. It's definitely me. It's definitely me. I'm talking about myself.
Oh my gosh, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
It's me.
Awesome.
Someone should edit that. I'm the problem.
That song was about
just,
me, okay,
it's just
guys?
Ben's face, just like spinning around. It's me. Anyway.
Oh my gosh, quite the anti-hero, Ben, you have become. All right, what's up, Francisco? All right, so let's do some plugs real quick and then start talking about this episode.
Yes.
So if you're watching on YouTube, punch the subscribe button. Chewy, you can super chat with us. You can become a channel member. And if you're listening to us, please hit the subscribe button on your podcast app and leave us a review if it lets you do so. We have a Discord, the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord, which you can join for game nights, movie nights, lots of fun stuff. The link is in the description or podcast notes.
And Joe will kill me if I don't mention this. We have an upcoming movie night tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And guess what movie we're watching during Star Wars Celebration? It's Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Oh my God. For those of you who have gotten too much Star Wars, who have been Star Warsed out by Star Wars Celebration.
Irony of this being the movie choice for this week is not lost on us. But okay, we planned this. We're committed to it. Okay, we're gonna do it. And we'll talk about some Star Wars while we watch a Marvel movie. Okay, so join in.
Oh my gosh. That is absolutely hilarious. So that link to join the Discord server, if you're watching or listening to this, you have access to it. Just go down to the description of the YouTube video or to the notes and description of the podcast episode that you're listening to. A lot of people have asked questions in the chat. How do I join? That's how you join.
Or if all else fails, just go to Twitter, type in @BenHart with no E and say, "Give me a link," because a lot of people have done that.
And that will boost Ben's engagement. That is his 100% foolproof strategy to getting a lot of tweets back at him.
It was all a plan, yes.
Awesome. Of course, you can follow us on social media at the SWU and check out Hot Off the Press, which is Dom's awesome Substack.
Got some celebration stories up there now.
Yeah, there's a great one story from each celebration, and it is there's some doozies in there. So definitely check that out. And also finally want to remind everyone about all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. We've got the Raeside, which now you have to type in the Hannah side to see that, but it's still there. No, it's still the Raeside.
Complete rebrand.
And of course we got Ion Cannon, which is on this channel, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy as well. So make sure you check out those shows. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about The Mandalorian Chapter 22, Guns for Hire. This was written by Jon Favreau, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. And I don't have the description in front of me, so I'm just going to call it Bo-Katan and Mando solve crimes and go on a wacky mission and take over a race of people at the end.
Cameos,
it's pretty accurate.
Battle droids and dark sabers and twists and insanity. It's Mando time.
So much. So I'm gonna start with opening thoughts from the person who is not here, and that is our good friend Dominic Jones, who currently is getting his beauty rest prior to the first day of Star Wars Celebration London, so he could not be here live on the show, but he did send in a video which we're going to watch, and there is a little surprise in the video that I'm super excited for everyone to see. So let's watch that right now.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, Hannah. Hello, everybody. I am so sorry that I'm not there to help break down this week's episode of The Mandalorian. As you guys know, I am in England right now for Star Wars Celebration London, which is coming up this weekend. But I did watch the episode and I wanted to give my initial impressions. But as to make up for the fact that I couldn't be there for the whole show, I've got a little surprise. Making his long-awaited return to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, it's our senior British correspondent, Kieran Duggan. Kieran, welcome back, buddy.
Hey, Dominic. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you, too. I'm going to sit a little closer so it's easier for
us.
That's
adorable.
No, we got to be both in the frame. So let's talk a little bit about this Mando episode. Let's give initial impressions and scores out of 10. We'll skip all the middle stuff and skip the final thoughts. We'll just do initial impressions and score out of 10. So I'll throw it to you first. what did you think of the episode? I think Guns for Hire is, I think, what it was called. I don't have any notes. We're doing this we watched the episode an hour ago. So
do you want the score first and then the reaction?
Give the reaction first and then close with the score.
Okay, so my initial reaction is that I really enjoyed the prequel references, particularly seeing the battle droids, the super battle droids come back. That planet, which I told Dominic in the episode, looks very much like Epcot from the Disney theme park. Well, that's all I could think about. And then the train shuttle as well. It looked really futuristic and cool. So I like the planet. Seeing Jack Black make a surprise appearance, not what I was expecting in
Jack
Star
Black
Wars.
and Lizzo. Jack Black and Lizzo as the rulers of a planet just feels right. I think we should try that for Earth. Get rid of all of these other politicians that we've got and just say, Jack Black, Lizzo, you guys have got this. Don't hire Christopher Lloyd to be head of security or anything.
Yeah, but it did feel like a Disney themed episode. I also said to Dominic at one point that it looked like when they were playing that game, what was it? They were throwing these balls. It was like the same game from Alice in Wonderland with the Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
In that animated film in the 1950s. Yeah, it was an okay episode. I'll be honest with you. I didn't feel it was the best Mando episode that I've seen, and I feel like the storyline has just been a bit slow paced. There was a great showdown at the end with Bo-Katan and the leader of that Mandalorian sect. The dark saber. You mentioned it to me, and I'm sure you give your own impressions, but it was a bit okay, right, we'll move on then from having to have the Mandalorian and the Bo-Katan showdown, which might have had to happen if they were doing it the original way, like it was in the Clone Wars. But yeah, it was a decent episode. I liked the beginning. The love story at the beginning was really funny.
That was really sweet. I liked that a lot. I thought that was good.
I did, but I thought, because when I saw the opening picture of the Quarren, I was like, are we going to go to
Mon Cala.
Yeah.
And then they were
talking back to that planet.
And then they were talking about Trask, which was in season 2 of Mandalorian. I'm like, oh, we're kind of retreading old territory here. We're going back to this planet that we've already seen on the show. And then they're like, no, actually, we're going somewhere completely different, which was something I was pleasantly surprised about, because Mandalorian has a bit of a history of repeating locations to an unnecessary degree. So I like this one. Going somewhere new. But sorry, I continue.
No, I'll wrap it up. But
that's so true. He just hijacked.
What I liked most about the episode was we went to a new location. It's always exciting to go to a new place. It looked visually stunning. I mean, it was amazing, and I was genuinely like, can I buy a ticket to go to the next Disney theme park?
Yeah.
That's California or something.
Galaxy's Edge 2.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was the vibes that I was getting, and and the characters as well. Baby Yoda was funny, of course.
Mm-hmm. Kind of took a back seat in this episode.
He did.
He had some good moments.
I liked the moment when he jumps from the seat because. To one of the characters.
Lizzo,
yeah.
He's like, intrinsically, I trust this woman. I'm going to go.
Mando was like, he doesn't really like strangers. Hop over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's interesting to learn a bit more about the Mandalorians, and it kind of moves on that story thread of them all trying to unite and together. But I just want to see more of the Empire. I'm not going to lie. I just really am missing some Moff Gideon. They keep talking about him, and he's not showing up.
Where the hell is he?
So, but I should be grateful for what we got to see, and there's still a couple more episodes left.
2 to go. Yeah.
2 to go. So I think really the best part was that I got to watch the episode with Dominic.
That is a treat. Everybody should know watching an episode with me is the best way to watch an episode. So.
It's good to watch with a Star Wars friend and then be able to talk about it afterwards. So
we applauded during the Lucasfilm logo. We tried to make it like a screening. It was fun, despite the fact that we're watching it on my laptop. Exactly. So it worked out. But
and then our obsession with Star Wars continued because we started looking at all the panels for the Star Wars celebration, which is coming up this weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. So
What about you? Oh, Dominic, what's your thoughts?
I liked this one. I thought this was a good one. I liked this episode of CSI Mandalore. I really enjoyed that. it was kind of like, it was like weirdly like a police procedural kind of episode, like a detective story, but that was fun. Like I like it when Star Wars plays in other genres a little bit, and so I thought that was cool. I liked that a lot. And then the stuff with the Mandalorians was pretty neat. I'm not sold on this whole Darksaber thing. It's a technicality more than anything. And I've felt that a lot of this stuff this season, I've been looking for like a deep, meaningful, spiritual journey for these characters, and instead we're getting a lot of technicalities. The Mines of Mandalore were nothing. I mean, there's a mythosaur down there, but we haven't really gone back to it at all. The Darksaber, Din Djarin couldn't just hand it to her in the past, but because she saved him from a creature in episode 2, well, actually now he can just hand her the Darksaber. I don't know. I find that stuff to be a little bit, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's living up to the potential of what was set up with those storylines. So it's good, but not great. And that's generally been my feeling about this season of Mandalorian. It's been good, but not great, with the exception of that one episode, which was bad. So I'll leave it. Yeah. I'll sort of, that's sort of how I feel about the season as a whole. The scene with Bo-Katan holding up the Darksaber at the end. A nice moment, a good moment. Again, I don't know if it feels totally earned on this show, but it does remind me of the moment at the end of at the end of the season 4 premiere of Rebels, when she did a similar thing. She held up the Darksaber and all the Mandalorians rallied behind her, which furthers my long-standing theory that a lot of this stuff that we're seeing on this show was planned for a separate series, for an animated Mandalorian series that would have involved Sabine from Rebels, and Bo-Katan would have been animated, and Dave would have done it after Rebels, or possibly even at the same time as Rebels, and then Favreau came along and said, I want to do a Mandalorian story post Return of the Jedi, and Kathy Kennedy said, have a conversation with Dave and you guys sort this out. And I think that's probably what we're seeing here is the result of them sorting it out. That being said, I'm still very excited to see where it goes. I loved, as you were saying, the design of this new planet. I loved seeing the battle droids in there. I thought that they were really fun. It was good to hear those voices again. I was wondering if there was going to be a little bit more with Din Djarin and his like flashbacks and stuff, because he was so traumatized by the super battle droids in the past. But ultimately, he just kind of kicked one over, which was still pretty fun. And I liked the droid bar. I thought that was cool. I don't know what L3 would have thought of droids, being totally subservient to humans in that way. But, again, that's a storyline for another day, for another story.
Yeah, just quickly on the two storylines, the PTSD stuff with Din Djarin and the droids, that was really interesting. And that felt very real and like something that could easily happen in our own world. And then the second part was around... Oh, it's going to come. It's just gone from me now. That was the commissioner. The commissioner and the separatist story, and the fact that he is still a supporter.
Justice for Count Dooku. Justice for Count Dooku. He was wronged.
In a way, I feel like I need to watch the episode again and just see. Now that I know that that's how the story is going to fall out, I can be like, well, let's see where the signs were. I mean, I said to Dominic, like, I could kind of tell there was something shifty about him at the start. I wasn't quite sure why he didn't just press that big red button that stopped all the droids from malfunctioning. But yeah, at the end of the episode, it was like, oh, okay, so they're still... I don't know, the impression I get is that they're trying to appeal to prequel audiences at the moment. So there's a battle droids, the separatists, Count Dooku, we've had the Tales of the Jedi, so it's a nice little plug there as well.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting through line of Count Dooku through a lot of Star Wars recently, starting with Tales of the Jedi and then into the Bad Batch Season 2 in the premiere, and now his name being dropped in here. It's interesting.
When's the Count Dooku panel going to be at Star Wars Celebration?
Yeah, there's the question.
This could have been the perfect year to do it.
Get Corey Burton out there and do a panel. It'd be sweet. Yeah, I'd love that.
Get the petitions going.
Yeah, because those always work. So I like that. Loved seeing Christopher Lloyd in there. Great, always great to see him. Our second Doc Brown in Star Wars in the last 2 years. So Taskmaster fans know what I'm talking about there. A decent episode. So why don't you give your score out of 10 for this one? What do you think?
6 out of 10 is what came to mind.
6 out of 10. I'm going to go 7.5. Possibly an 8, but I'll go 7.5 because of the Darksaber stuff. I'll give it 7.5. So decent episode. Could be better, but could be worse. So that's where we'll leave it. Again, remind everybody, if you're going to be at Celebration this weekend, come to our panel. It is on the fan stage at 6 p.m. It's about the underworld. It's got a title as Gangsters, Smugglers, and the Scum and Villainy throughout the years. Come see it, 6 p.m. On Saturday, on the fan stage.
Yeah, a big thanks to Chris Abbott for organising it.
It's going to be a great time.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
You want to listen to what Dominic's got to say. Don't listen to what I've got to say.
Well, really,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Really, who you're going to be there to see are Adam Christopher. Yeah, you're going to be there.
I'm just there to sit and learn.
Really, who you want to hear from are Adam Christopher and Ethan Sachs, the actual Star Wars authors who are going to be on this panel. But that's it from us. We'll see everybody at Celebration this weekend, and hope everybody enjoys the rest of the podcast. Very interested to hear what you all think about this episode. So back to you, Chris, Ben, and Hannah. It's a wrap for us.
Awesome.
Oh, man.
So huge thanks
great.
for Dominic for sending that video, and it's great seeing Kieran again. Oh my gosh, long time no see Kieran.
I've never seen his face.
That's right.
I've just heard his voice. I've just listened to many of his podcasts.
The disembodied voice, legendary.
Yeah.
That's his voice.
That's amazing. So there are their thoughts. I think that was a 6 out of 10 and a 7.5 out of 10. So we gotta think about mid, but let's get to our thoughts. And Ben, let's start with you first. What are your initial impressions on Guns for Hire?
Should I go first? I don't know. I don't know if I should go first.
My guess is the order of intensity is probably you, me, Chris. So I reckon.
That's what I was gonna go for.
Yeah, see, I've been thinking all week, how do I actually describe my reaction to this episode? Because I've never had a reaction to a Star Wars thing ever in my life as intense as this episode. And I'm not saying this from a gleeful, I'm proud of this, okay? This is not a prideful moment for me, okay? This is dumb. I'm being real dumb here, okay? I was quite frankly depressed the entirety of Wednesday after watching this episode. This episode just about killed me. And it was not for the reasons that you think. It's not for the reasons that everyone online is complaining about. Oh, it was boring. Oh, it was too crazy. Oh, there's too many cameos. I think overall, and I'll start with what I liked. I liked, as soon as I heard his voice, I'm like, that's Jack Black. Oh my God. I was all in on Jack Black. I did not immediately recognize Lizzo. It took me half the episode to I know her from somewhere, but I can't place her. It wasn't until the end that I kind of placed her. And then we knew about Christopher Lloyd from several months back. I think that was scooped. So I was glad to finally say, oh, here he is. Finally, he's here. And he was a great character. All the cameos I think were great. I don't fault anybody for saying, oh, it took me out of it. Too many cameos. I just can't get my head around Jack Black in Star Wars. Yeah, I get it. Okay. But I loved him. I think he was great. I think they were all perfect for the roles. The return of battle droids and battle droid humor. We haven't had that in so long. And here we are again. The use of battle droids in this thing was great. The prequel references, just visually, the episode looked absolutely stunning. I love this world. I love things. I would love to come back here, honestly. I hope this becomes more of a principal planet in the Mandalorian series. But, giant but here. When we get, and I was I'm not loving the episode. This is not my favorite episode of the season, but I was kind of on board with it for most part. It was that last 2 minutes that really did me in when they started, because I had the inkling last episode when Armor calls Bo-Katan down to the thing and says, hey, and then figures out that she's going to be the one to unite Mandalore. I'm like, okay, that's a bit fishy. It's a bit interesting. I thought Din was going to be the guy to do that, but okay, here we go. I'm down with it. Love Bo-Katan. And then we get to this episode where, we have the moment where she gets a technicality. She gets the Darksaber back on a technicality. And I am serious. I was heartbroken at this because I feel like for the past 3 seasons, we've been building up to and talked about the whole idea of Din Djarin potentially being the ruler of Mandalore and taking the Darksaber and getting to use it and uniting Mandalore, and to kind of take that away from him, I think was such a dumb idea. It's so bad. And I do not disagree with it all. I'm not ruling out the potential for them to bring this back around. Obviously, I'm not going to boycott Mandalorian, okay? I'm on board still. But this, as maybe I'll try to explain, really shook my faith in the entire show, to be honest. And I think it's not a great decision. I think taking that away from Din and giving it to Bo. I love that Bo-Katan is in the show. I love that she's a co-lead. I hope she gets more stuff to do, but I wanted Din to be king, and he's not, so I'm not happy.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait to be king. All right, Hannah.
Woo! Yeah. I think Ben, we are just merging into the same person.
Oh, no.
Eventually, we'll just become one. I'll have like red hair. You'll have like a top bun. I'll wear glasses. We're just morphing into the same person. No, yeah, I echo almost everything of what you've said there. I think the experience of the day after, which was for me Thursday, and even on Wednesday night, like the episode's done for me by 6 p.m. Wednesday night, I was just so down about it. It's just,
I was here. I was there with you. We didn't know it at the time, but I was there with you. We were sending good vibes to the Force. We were there together.
Yes, we were the dyad, the sad dyad, the sad dyad. Anyway.
Syad.
Syad. There we go.
Syad, yes.
Jeez. But yeah, and in a way, you know, if I had to sit here and go, this is what I didn't like about the episode, I would actually kind of have a difficult time expressing that very explicitly. I agree. I don't really have anything against, the cameos. I feel like could have been written better, but almost everything I feel like could have been written better in this whole episode. So it's not really just about the cameos.
That's kind of Mando season 3 in a nutshell,
right? So this episode just really shone almost like this negative. It was like a negative space experience for me. It's not like this was the worst thing in existence, but I was just like, I just hit this brick wall of like, this is just nothing of what I thought Star Wars would be, what I want from Star Wars. And you know, we've talked in a serious sense, like we talked a lot here about how I didn't enjoy Andor. I still fully appreciate that that's a part of the Star Wars universe. Like that exists to me. That's there. That's, you know, this is what's happened. That's a story. I might not have fully engaged with like the tone, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's a cool story, cool things are happening. But this episode of Mando has just was such a weird experience of, I don't like at all. If this is the direction we're going, I really don't feel engaged or interested. I don't. I've never thought that.
I'm feeling the same way.
Oof.
I'm feeling
Yeah.
it. I really am.
Yeah. It's just like, this is not what I've subscribed to. This is not what I've committed to. So I don't know. I again, it's not actually it's something, a pinpoint thing of the episode, but it's just like, there's so much in here that doesn't make sense, doesn't relate to previous episodes, that I just go, is this like, this is the second before, well, the episode before the finale, really. It should be kind of like a 2-part finale of like your flagship show that has done fantastically well. Season 2 was awesome. You've got, you know, all these resources going behind it, and like, this is what that is. Like, this is peak. I'm a little lost on it.
Dang. Although I think a lot of people agree looking at social media. Okay. Okay. So I came close to putting my finger on this when I started watching the episode while I was watching it. And as you were talking, I finally zeroed in on exactly what it is, that thing that you're sensing that you can't articulate. I know what it is. So Doctor Who, the critically acclaimed British television sci-fi series,
I've heard of it,
used to do this thing where they would let a fan write an episode of a season.
What?
Yes. And I think that's how we got the Slovene, which are some fascinating, interesting characters to say the least, from Doctor Who. So this is what this episode felt like. This episode felt like, let's let a fan write an episode of The Mandalorian and see what happens. That's what it felt like to me. And moreover, it felt not like Star Wars, but like other sci-fi things. Like the beginning of the episode with the ships and like hailing each other and like negotiating in space was like one of the most Star Trek openings I've ever seen in Star Wars. And like, Josh in the chat echoes this. I've heard many people echo this. And so initially when I was watching it, I'm like, wow, Star Wars has done like Indiana Jones, like they've done Godzilla, they've done all these different homages. Is this Star Wars' homage to Star Trek? Is that what we're watching right now? Like that's what I felt. And I'm like, okay, like I can kind of see where that's coming from. So the beginning was very much a Star Trek like beginning, or like a Doctor Who like beginning. It was very zany. It was more about human interests than big galactic interests. And then when you got into the planet, which I keep forgetting the name of, Plaisir.
Plaisir. I like how it was a little bit French at the end there. Plaisir.
Yeah, Plaisir 15. So when they got there, I agree so much with what Kieran said that it like looks like Epcot. It looks like it looked like this utopian futuristic vision, which was so incredibly jarring because we've been seeing this like used universe, and we're so used to seeing Star Wars in like a used universe where everything's breaking down and like corrupt, and there's like something dystopian. Star Wars can be very dystopian, that it was very unsettling and uneasy to see these like warrior characters who have been like roughing it in the Outer Rim for their whole lives, like go into this environment where everything's just like this utopian sci-fi world of this peace zone and Plaisir 15. So like, but then after that, everything that we got, I felt like was just, let's just take random parts of Star Wars and just put it in. Let's make a story. Let's just like grab this from there. Like, oh, battle droids, that's a Star Wars thing. Let's go grab that. Like Ugnaughts, that's a Star Wars thing. Let's grab that. Oh, droids kind of having, emotions and feelings about their place in the world. Let's grab that. And they just keep grabbing all these little pieces of Star Wars to kind of throw it in. Let's, make a futuristic street scene that looks like Coruscant and have somebody chasing somebody through that, like an Attack of the Clones. Let's grab that piece. And then, of course, they finish with, let's have two Mandalorians fight each other. Let's grab that. So I agree with the sentiment that everything seems kind of like out of place and like doesn't fit with the rest of the season. Like I agree with that because it definitely doesn't. Like the tone is like another show. It's almost like fan fiction, and it's just totally out there. There's lots of random cameos, and it's just there were all these bits and pieces of Star Wars. The only thing that I disagree with is I personally like that. I liked seeing a smorgasbord of Star Wars. Like I like seeing Star Wars not taking itself too seriously. And maybe it's weird because I'm often critical of episodes that do that. Like I'm often critical of like let's just go on a side quest like episodes of Star Wars, because I'm like, well, you could just not watch that and it doesn't matter. But the thing is, like this episode, you definitely have to watch it. Like the plot of the episode was an important plot. It was about the Den and Bo finding the rest of the Mandalorians, seeing what they've been up to, providing exposition for that, them going through challenges and learning things about each other and developing their characters along the way, and then getting to a confrontation with them, and not only dealing with what Bo's relationship is to her former squad, but then what is going on with the Darksaber and getting resolution to that conflict, which was foreshadowed earlier. So like it does fit with the rest of the season. You have to watch this episode. There are important things in it. So I can't give it like the side quest knock just because it was so off the wall. So as a result of that, the fact that it was so like nutty and had so many all these elements in it, I really liked, because it was kind of almost like a breath of fresh air. Like, here's something new. We've been having kind of the same tonality, and now here's something new and kind of fun and exciting where you literally don't know what to expect, because there's all these things coming in. Like, there's what you don't know what era of Star Wars is going to have a cameo or relationship to this episode. You don't know where it's going to show up or how it's going to play in. And then you don't know what actors are just going to randomly show up or musicians are just going to randomly show up. It just seemed like a really fun kind of variety carousel of sci-fi stuff and references, which I thought was kind of fun. Like, I really was entertained by it. And I was really entertained by the visuals. Like, I was entertained by, you know, seeing this expansive city and how many like sets they built and like how colorful it was in this new planet and all this stuff. Like, it was very visually stimulating and interesting to me after seeing so many episodes of The Mandalorian kind of take place in like a very kind of small, similar type environment. It was cool seeing all these different things. So I really liked it. And there's not many things that I would nitpick about the episode. I will mention when we get to it the things that I thought were like, that could have been better. But in general, I liked the episode. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was fun. And I'm glad that they let John do this. Like, I'm glad that they took a chance and said, let's just do a crazy story. Maybe it's not the right spot to do it in the trajectory of the show. Fair argument. Third episode to the last of the season, but I thought it was cool.
Thank God one of us liked it.
Yes. I'm like happy you liked it. I'm genuinely. I'm like, yeah, good. Like, it's someone enjoy this.
And I agree with a lot of your points. Like, I really do. I think this episode, as crazy as it was, speaks to a lot of the strengths of Mandalorian. I think Mandalorian as a show has been stronger because it's been willing to do things that Star Wars movies have failed or just not wanted to do at all, and other Star Wars things have not wanted to do at all. I love the fact that you can turn on an episode of Mandalorian. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get with this show. And that's a strength. That's being wild and crazy and zany and casting Lizzo as the Duchess of some planet with her husband, Jack Black. Like, that's insane. But they had the cojones to do it. And I am totally on board with them doing it. I will always go back to The Last Jedi of effect of like, you know, I don't have to agree with every decision. I just respect your right and your ability and your gall to do it. I think that this episode could have handled all of the moving pieces a little bit better. I'll be honest, half of the episode, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was just like, they're looking for a spark plug. What is this? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I am that way with a lot of things, so that's just me being dumb. But I liked all the cameras. I like the different pieces of Star Wars, and I like the environment. I think the episode, like, a lot of people are going after Bryce Dallas Howard for this. I don't think there's anything that I really have a beef with Bryce Dallas Howard about in this episode. I think the direction, the acting, the production value is all top notch. My biggest issue is the writing.
Yeah, I think for me and that's why I'm like, I don't actually have one thing to say I really hate, because like all the things you were listing there, Chris, I in reality, isolated, I enjoy this whole droid exploration of the droid race being mistreated and discarded, and that can't happen. Like, that's a really interesting concept and mirror to real life. And I think, Star Wars is always going to be, it's at its best when it shows a mirror to real life and what we experience. And, I thought that was a really cool concept. I appreciated that they're exploring new aesthetics and new planets, new visuals. This planet It's kind of a little Coruscant, but not really. But just, different, just different aesthetics of somewhere. And like, there's all these individual parts where I actually kind of appreciate, but I think that's what I altogether just couldn't digest this episode, because I was like, I feel like I'm reading, when you like cut out the letters of a magazine and you like put them, usually it's for like a death threat, but
who have you been threatening lately? Yeah,
no, but like, as like a kid or something, you cut out like pictures of like your favorite actors or favorite like characters out of a magazine. You put, make a little poster thing. Like, it felt like that, but then I think that's what I agree with you, Chris. Like, that's what it was. But yeah, I didn't enjoy that. Whereas you're saying you did enjoy that. I'm getting kind of lost of like, yeah, I agree. It's not Bryce Dallas Howard's fault. I still think she deserves a Star Wars movie. I don't think she'll get one. I don't think that's going to be the announcement we'll get tomorrow. But I hope it. I really do hope it. Even though this is like the biggest episode, I'm like, it's turning my point of view on Star Wars. I'm like, still give her a movie. Fantastic. It's definitely, I think, the writing. I think I'm questioning here. If they go, the plot point was to show, a bit more dynamic between Bo and Din, and obviously get to the point of the Darksaber. Why is that? Like, it just felt shoehorned into the latter 4 minutes of the episode. I actually enjoyed that. Interaction. I do agree with the fact it was just like, technically she has it. I do not like how that played out, but the face-off of Mandalorians and this whole, they're all Mandalorians, but they have different beliefs, and that's being challenged. It was challenged with the Armorer, now they're challenging it with this group. I think that's fantastic. I thought that's what this season was going to be solely about, and I still think, if I had to, if I was in charge and if I was going to write everything, which I don't have the skills to be, like,
one day.
I love how to say don't have the skills to, as if it's an actual possibility. But you know what I mean? Like, if I was to rewrite this season, I think it would have just been so more focused on that. Like, we have done the Mandalorian is individual. Now we've done season 2. That was season 1. Season 2 was the Mando explores relationships and seeks help. That was season 2. And this season should have been the Mandalorian finds community, he finds belonging, he finds family and unity. And that is where, the Armorer, that covert comes in. And that's where, the extremists of Mandalorians come in, and all the different values and how to juggle that, and how the different groups play off each other. Mandalore, we discover Mandalore is livable. The oxygen is final. Atmosphere is okay. Like, that should have been quite a big plot point. That should have been like, maybe in episode 3, we discover that, and then everything's around, what are we going to do about Mandalore? We can go back to Mandalore. Who's going to be in charge? Who's going to run the thing? Oh, there's friction here with different groups. How's that going to play out? Like, that should have been the focus of this season. But, and I can't fully go, we haven't had that. We've gotten tastes of that. What was it? The pirate? It was this interesting coming together of Bo and the Armorer, and there's this interesting conversations they have at the end, and Paz is an interesting character to throw in there. So it's like, we're getting the tastes of it, but it's like not at all what this season is focused on. And the same thing is like coming back to my point of like this whole Darksaber storyline, which is the point of this episode, was just shoehorned in the back 4 minutes of this episode. That was a big rant, but that's how this season.
So okay, let's talk about the bantha in the room first, as you said in this episode by Mr. Jack Black. So when that happened down in Mandalore, down in the mines of Mandalore, where Din was attacked by the one-eyed bug cyborg thingy.
General Grievous's long lost cousin.
I don't know. And the Darksaber was taken. The second that Bo picked that thing up, I was like, this is hers. This is hers. Like, I knew that. I knew it was hers. And I knew that's how they would get around it. Because while I agree. It would have been so incredibly interesting to see more tension between Bo and Din. And I really do feel like, they were setting up for some really serious tension at the end of the last season. I mean, Bo was not happy about Din ending up with the Darksaber in his possession. She was very pissed off at that, and she was very depressed about that. And she's just moping around her castle hideaway thingy for who knows how long because of that. And so, you'd think that would breed some real resentment that would then force some type of really major conflict that could be like a Game of Thrones-esque battle royale between those two characters and even people supporting them this season. That would be a great way to go with it. But that wasn't where they chose to go with it. Like, they decided to make Bo a hero and a protagonist and essentially a co-lead, and she's billed as a lead for this show. And they decided that they were going to slowly break down the tension that had built up at the end of season 2 between Din and Bo by just having them have to work together through different challenges and situations, and then have Bo join Din's group and learn their ways the way. And that's how they dealt with it. And they diffused that tension away. So that big showdown that could have happened, that could have caused that Darksaber to change hands, it couldn't happen because they let all the air out of that one throughout the whole season. And that was the process of the season. So it really was, to be a natural conclusion, just to go off of what I felt like they definitely were foreshadowing in the Minds of Mandalore, that Bo was just going to now be the rightful possessor once again of the Darksaber because of what happened down there. And I think, once again, the foreshadowing too of her seeing the mythosaur and being the only one to see the mythosaur, and then talking to the armorer about that, and then that leading the armorer to not only accept her but also allow her to take off her helmet and to be the person between the two worlds and the two creeds. Like, I think all of that combined was enough to kind of bring us to that point, and for it to be just a natural conclusion to everything. So I wasn't mad about that. I think having a cool, they didn't cheat us out of a cool action sequence. They just had the battle that would have happened between Din and Bo be instead between Bo and Axe Wolves, which makes sense. So it was visually really cool to see that. We still got that action set piece with two Mandalorians fighting. So I don't know. I agree. Maybe if the whole season was rewritten, maybe it could have been done better. But at this point, it's hard for me to fault this particular episode because it's just falling in line with the rest of the season and where it was going. And it was a natural next step to that.
Yeah, for me, it's the issue that I've had some time to think about this. I had to think about this because I'm like, okay, why am I disappointed? And obviously, expectations can ruin you. I've learned that the hard way, and maybe that's my problem here, is that I had too many expectations. But I feel like there was enough here that we were going a certain direction. We were going towards, going back to season 2. Bo-Katan wanted the Darksaber, wanted it from Gideon. Din essentially takes it from her. And I thought that was it. That, okay, Din, even though he doesn't want to be, he is going to be ruler. He is going to be the guy to learn how to use the Darksaber and to wield it and to earn it and to earn the trust of everyone and be the one uniter. And this season, going through Book of Boba Fett, where he trains with the armorer, and then going further is too heavy for him, all this kind of stuff. I get it. It was all seemingly gearing up towards, like, he's going to learn how to use the Darksaber. He's going to learn how to be a leader. He's going to go make that hero's journey and go up and be the leader that Mandalore needs. And I could see from this season already that was not falling into place as well as I thought it was. But I still thought there was hope that they could make that work. Obviously, Bo-Katan coming into the picture throws a wrench in the gears, and she wasn't the antagonist that we thought she might be going into this season. I thought, well, she could be a straight up villain. You watch the first episode and she's brooding on her throne. You're like, oh, she doesn't like Din. She could be there. And then that quickly turns around and I'm like, I like this better. I like them being friends. I like that they're being allies. I love Bo-Katan, and my issue with her getting the Darksaber, it's not about really her. I like Bo-Katan. I think she has had a tremendous turnaround this season. I think she is worthy of the Darksaber now. But I think it does a disservice to his character that now, where is he going as a character? This tremendous turn from season 1, he learns to trust droids and stuff like that, which is a whole other thing. I'll get to that in a few minutes. I got another beef about that. But and then we learn in season 2, he's learning to be a dad. And then he gets the Darksaber, and it's just like, oh, maybe he has his grand destiny, and he's going to be the Mandalorian. At least that's what I thought in my head. And then we get to this, and it's just like we're building up to the end of the season, all this kind of stuff. And now where does it go? To me, and maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but it reads to me like a pattern in regards to Favreau not really wanting Din to evolve as a character and to kind of keep him in one place and to keep the show in one place. In regards to, we had Grogu leave the show with good Luke Skywalker, and then he came back a few episodes later. That right there was a red flag of just like they want to, and I think even Favreau says as much. It's like we need to restore the status quo, and that's what I fear for Mandalorian for the future after this, especially after this episode, is that it's not that it wants to or can evolve. The characters can't evolve. It's just kind of stuck in place, and that to me is less interesting. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope that we can find a place. The next 2 episodes, Din will find a whole nother journey, a whole other thing. But it feels like for a season and a half, we were setting up Din to be the wielder of the Darksaber, and now that is null. We were basically right back where we started with Bo-Katan almost getting it, and then him not getting it, not wanting it, and then he just gives it to her. Like, we're all the way back. And I'm just like, couldn't he have done something interesting with it? Like, he fought with it a couple times, he could barely hold it, and then he just gives it away. He carries it around all season. And I was about to complain, oh, why hasn't he done anything with the Darksaber? He cut that ball droid in half. Like, that was pretty cool. Other than that, he really didn't have much to do. And it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. And we still got 2 more episodes. I need to chill out, but I am concerned with where this is going and disappointed.
Yeah. The story of the Darksaber has been such an interesting one, because thinking back to was it 2019, and we get the crash of Moff Gideon's ship. And we see that blade pierce the side of the ship, and we all immediately identify that blade, and we go like, "Oh shit!" Like, that's the Darksaber. That has such incredible meaning to the Mandalorian. The word, the Mandalorians, and the planet, that is so much meaning, and we know quite a bit about the Darksaber at this point. It is interesting. I just think that so much. I feel like there could have been more importance placed on the Darksaber, and I really expected that this season would have had more explanation about it, more explanation and exploration of what it actually means. A criticism overall. Funny enough, apart from this, I've actually fairly enjoyed this season. It's been quite enjoyable. I've enjoyed week by week what we have seen. But I did want and maybe expected just a little more emphasis on the Darksaber is around. Like, it's in the hands of, Din at the moment, but what's going to happen with that? Like, how does that impact things? And maybe this comes back to my big spiel earlier about how it should have been more about the Mandalorian relationships. I really thought the Darksaber should be a key element of that storytelling in those stories. And I definitely think it's just like it's handled as if it's like a special hairbrush that's like, oh, I get to have it this week, no you have it, no you have it. Like it's just like I don't it's just has lost this importance. It's lost its worth. Like we saw its blade and we went like fans went nuts going, oh my god, it's the dark saber, god, oh my god. We had to explain the dark saber's so cool, you gotta go watch these things about the dark saber, oh my god. But now it's just lost so much meaning for me. I don't know if you guys agree with that. Actually, Chris, do you agree with that? Like, episode aside, dark saber, do you think that's been handled well by this season?
I think it's really come down to the idea of what is the central conflict of this show. And I think the issue that we're having is that we expected the Darksaber to be the throne from Game of Thrones. We expected it to be the thing that everybody's vying for, that drives the rest of the story, because that's really how things were set up in the last season, 100%. And so I think that's why we're confused, because our expectations were that, and that was probably never their plan. Their plan was to just have it there because it's an important part of Mandalorian culture, Mandalorian lore. If you have Mandalorians, you need a Darksaber, and that's why it's in Rebels, and that's why it's in Clone Wars. But just as it never was the centerpiece of the Rebels show or the Clone Wars show, I don't really think it's the centerpiece of this show either. And I think this episode has proven that this season is really a setup season for what the central conflict of this show actually is. And it's kind of odd that you have 3 seasons of setup, but really it is, because if you go back to last season, that's what, like, the first season was about introducing the character of Din, introducing the character of Grogu. And it was very much about them. And there wasn't a lot of really big things happening in the overall universe for them to deal with. Season 2 was about introducing more characters and then giving you some hints about what the plot of this era is going to be, which is Thrawn versus everybody else. And so when you got to this season, they're just putting all of the faction pieces into the place that they need to be. This season's been really about expanding our exposition of what the New Republic is and how they function and the problems that exist within the New Republic that would allow someone like Thrawn to exist and eventually allow something like the First Order to exist. That's been the key driving point of this season, explaining the issues of the New Republic and then getting all of the characters in place so that you can see what side they're going to be on, either a side of fighting Thrawn or a side of inaction, allowing and enabling Thrawn, or perhaps even being a turncoat, as one person on Coruscant might be, and actually helping Thrawn. And so I think that's what they're doing. I think they're aligning things together. And I feel like what's going to happen is we're going to end this season with all of the Mandalorians coming together, kind of like how Dany collects all of her armies towards the end of Game of Thrones and then sends them to Westeros. And I think that Ahsoka then is going to cover getting those characters together, Ahsoka and the Ghost Crew, and finding Ezra, and then learning more information about Thrawn and the threat of Thrawn, as that was foreshadowed in the episode that introduced Ahsoka last season in Mandalorian. And then when you get to Mandalorian season 4, you're going to have Ahsoka, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, all of those characters, Hera, ready to go. You're going to have all the Mandalorians over here ready to go. And you're going to have an explanation for why the New Republic, this massive government that should have all of this power, is just not going to work. It's not going to help because they're just covered in bureaucracy and they have moles and spies and saboteurs within their ranks, and they're just going to be inactive. And so when Thrawn comes in, it's going to be up to the Ghost Crew from the Ahsoka show and the Mandalorians who have banded together from this show to work together to be the ones to stop Thrawn. And that conflict is the central conflict. The Darksaber won't mean anything. Mandalore, unfortunately, as a planet, not really going to mean much. Maybe there'll be a base of operations from them. Maybe the happy ending at the end of it will be them repopulating it, but there's not going to be a fight over Mandalore between Mandalorians or between hero and anti-hero characters. It's going to be Mandalorians and Jedi and some New Republic forces who are not following orders of the New Republic, who are going rogue, who are going to be the ones that are going to save the day and be the heroes, fight off Thrawn. That's going to be a story of season 4 and beyond. Everything's going to that. We're just in this kind of setup phase before that.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I think you about covered everything. Honestly, I do absolutely agree. I think that this season is about uniting Mandalore. That's the theme of this season. I think the next 2 episodes are going to prove that, so that Mandalore and Mandalorians can be in a place to play their part and whatever else. I'm just curious, will Mandalorians be the part of that? Will the army that has to fight Thrawn? I think that will be Mandalorians probably, because it's not going to be New Republic. They don't have an army, and so I'm curious what other factors could it play. Will Mandalore be at the center of that? Will it just be a part of that? I don't know, but yeah, the next 2 episodes, despite my opinions of this episode. I am really excited because I'm like, okay, this is actually, we've got the side adventure, the side quest out of the way. And by the way, I'm totally fine with them doing episodes like this. Like especially at this point of the season, like I know we're all gearing up for the finale. We want every episode to be super consequential every second of the time, not waste any time, no filler, all killer, no filler. But it's not going to be like that always. Mandalorian has always meandered around. Go back to season 1. Not every episode you have kind of the first 3 episodes are about introducing Grogu, and the last 3 episodes are about saving Grogu, and the rest in the middle is kind of all over the place. They go to a planet and they have a mission, and there's a side quest, and it's a video game. So I'm fine with that, especially after the consequential episode we got last week. So many consequential things happened. Like I'm okay with that. But I think the next 2 episodes, I think things, and I agree with Dominic. I'm like, and Kieran, where the hell is Moff Gideon? Especially after that teaser we got at the last episode. Okay, show of hands. Who, besides me, thought that the voice at the beginning of the episode when they go in the cruiser, the deep voice talking to the Mon people was for? Because that's where when they zoomed in on the chair,
glitched.
Like,
you glitched.
Thrawn.
Who is it?
Thrawn.
Thrawn. Oh god, jeez, wow! You only were glitching when you said the character name. That's hilarious.
I know it always happens when I'm
there. It's time for
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yes.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Star Wars rules. This is momentous. This is exciting. Why, hello there, Ben.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
He is the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Mr. Ben Hart.
How's it going, everybody?
To answer the question that I was assuming was asked, yes, I thought it might be Thrawn or somebody with Thrawn. Yes, I thought that might be what was happening. Yes.
Yeah,
so
no,
I wasn't the only crazy person. Okay.
I totally forgot. It's just the whole opening sequence, like that whole love story moment. Like I until everyone's
the
like
tentacles.
Oh, damn. I didn't actually mind it. I did forget about it because so much happened in the episode. But I actually didn't mind the beginning. I felt very Rebels or something. I was just like, this is bizarre. But see, okay, that's bizarre that I like. I like that kind of Star Wars bizarre. So I don't know.
I agree. I fully agree with the Star Trek comparison. Like having a dark room with a view screen and a chair in the middle, like that's straight up Star Trek. And really cool production design, having that tank turn into a chair. Really cool.
Yes. I filmed a reaction video to the episode, and when it had that opening scene, I was like, you know what? This would be a great way to bathe. Like, imagine that you don't have to get up. Like, if you go, oh, I gotta go take a shower, and just a tube, and you just get washed, and then it goes back down. Like, how great! It'd be awesome.
That was funny. I see the way that I took it is I was like, okay, if the Mon Cal and the Quarren live on an ocean world, why do they put air in their ships? Why don't they fill their ships with water? I am confused. I understand the real reason is that would have been hard to shoot in 1983, but
canonically in canon, like if you read the books like that, like for humans that stay on those Mon Cala ships, super uncomfortable because they're so humid. Like they crank up the humidity like so much just so they can things. But like you're right, why have air? They breathe. I mean, they obviously breathe air and water, but like they're in water. That's where they're born. Like why wouldn't they just, I don't know. That is weird.
Does anyone have any knowledge of any sci-fi anywhere where there's water in the ships instead of air because the creatures are aquatically evolved creatures and not like land-based organisms?
I swear there's probably a Futurama episode.
It's gotta be
surely a Futurama episode on that.
Literally got fish people, okay? It's squid. It's squid people and lobster people, and they're hanging out in a ship. Why do you need air? Just give them water.
Yeah, so that's what I thought was going on when I thought this Quarren character, knows where it's at. Like she's figured it out. Like, no more of this drying out in air. Let's just be in a tube of water all the time in the captain's chair. Like absolutely brilliant setup there. But oops, I gotta make a phone call, so maybe I should get out of water so that the camera can like pick me up or whatever the heck.
He dumped a fish in there that she could eat.
Yeah,
getting lunch.
So what confused me though, and this confuses me about the Clone Wars too, when they went underwater on what do they call it now, Mon Cala. Not Dak.
Mon Cala.
Not Dak.
You've got the best accent, Chris. Mon Cala.
Mon Cala.
What? Mon Cala.
Mon Cala. So when they went Mon
Calamari.
Think about that. Was like you can't talk. You can't talk underwater. Has anyone tried to talk underwater? You can't talk underwater. It doesn't work.
Well, no. If
it's space water, it's different.
Yeah, because it's in your mouth. Like humans can't, because it's just like air bubbles. Like we're not.
Also, there's a moment in those episodes where some Mon Calamari soldiers fall to their deaths underwater. They just swam up.
That's so true, actually. That's a good point. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
No, but because the water is like in their mouths and in their gills, it's like the sound just travels through the water. Like it's probably over clarified. But I feel like you could talk underwater if you had gills. Like fish could. If fish had vocal cords, they could talk underwater.
But the thing is, they don't. And so that's what
me getting. Oh yeah, this is how it works. This is what.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
Okay. Here's the thing. Yes, human beings, us humanoids over here. I'm not sure if you're a human or not, but you're a humanoid.
Who are you talking to? You talking to me?
As far as I know.
Yes. Ben's not even a humanoid. Ben's an android. We've known this for a while.
Yeah, this is true. It's true.
But that's why he's always glitching out, like the android
Ben's
in the
connection
holiday
corner.
special. But okay. Here's the thing. This is my speech about science.
All right.
Okay. Non-humanoid land-based creatures, while they cannot articulate language in the way that we do, because their mouths are shaped differently and their throats and larynxes are shaped differently, they still talk. Like your dog talks, cats talk, lions talk, everything talks, elephants, they all make sounds and talk and communicate in some way vocally through the air.
Well, fish don't.
Fish don't.
Oh, was that your punchline?
That's my point. They don't because they can't, because you can't talk underwater.
No,
so therefore
they don't talk because they don't have vocal cords or vocal folds.
But if it was possible for creatures to communicate in that non-subsonic way underwater, then they would have evolved that ability just like all land-based creatures would have. But they didn't because it's impossible. Because the second that one fish learned how to talk to another fish, they'd all of a sudden be the top fish and would reproduce, and everybody that gene would pass on. Now, what they do is they do what bats do, which is they talk subsonically.
Yes. Okay.
They talk in a way where we can't hear, but it's a different wave of sound, and they use echolocation and things like that, and that's how dolphins communicate with each other and things like that. So.
When a dolphin's in the air, though, it can talk.
Right, because you can talk in the air, but not underwater.
No, they just don't have a need to say those things underwater.
So you're saying that dolphins pierce through the surface into the air just to talk.
Just to talk.
Maybe we found the reason.
Come over here. Let's go to the surface.
Maybe we found the reason why they keep air in their ships is because they can't talk on their own planet. They can't, they literally can't. They have to go.
Yes,
they
shouldn't be able to. But yet she's underwater talking like she wasn't underwater, which confuses the heck out of me and makes no sense. That's the entire point. I just wanted to say that. I don't know how this became this whole thing. I just wanted to say she should have been talking subsonically.
She got an underwater microphone.
You need a mask for that.
Well, what? Okay. Well, no. Hang on. I'm still on this thing that you just need some sort of, an atmosphere, air, or you need something all surrounding to talk.
Okay.
Put the sound waves.
Got an answer for you. I got an answer for you. Okay, I'm going to solve this right now.
Okay.
Sound in space.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. Yes. Okay. There's sound in space in Star Wars. That is true. What that means,
where there's literally no air. There's literally no air in space, and there's sound. So if there's a little bit of air in water, of course there's sound.
How there can't be air in space.
Well, there is. It's too few and far between to make ripples. Okay. Because the sound is just the vibrations of air.
We got plenty of air down here. Just take some air to space. Take a gallon of air and let it go in space. Come on.
Take a gallon.
Why are we talking about
this?
Okay.
Well, think of that Clone Wars episode where the Plo Koons with these troopers, and they're in an escape pod, and then for a moment of time they have to go outside of the pod, and they're communicating.
I think that's through a comm.
Yes. But Plo doesn't have a comm, but he has a separate breathing apparatus.
Yes, that's true.
I don't know where I'm going with it, but I sound really confident with my point.
Well, okay, I think the point, and I think this is how you've become correct inside the Star Wars universe, Hannah, and how Ben, explains how this is possible, is that in Star Wars, there are no sound physics. There's no physics of sound. It just is. Sound just is.
There should be a uni degree of you get a bachelor of physics mastering in Star Wars to understand and explain the physics of Star Wars. I love it.
In Star Wars, sound is something that's underwater, it's something that's in space, it's something that's on land, and it's something that you can use to attack people, a la the slave.
Oh, yeah, true.
So those are the 4 uses of sound in Star Wars. That, and what bizarrely, as characters walk around, there's classical music playing all the time from the Boston Pops.
That's really weird. Real weird.
This is all the time. Just permeating just background of everywhere.
I reckon there's a sound.
Oh, the music's getting intense. Something bad's about to happen.
Yeah, there's definitely a sound system in the Death Star. They've got Bluetooth. You can like connect to it. I reckon. Okay, think about the seismic charge, right?
Yes.
What if the sound was that wave? Oh no!
Wait a minute. The seismic charges are usually used in space.
What part of this is not scientific? Do you not understand? What part of this is a fantasy movie and there's no science in it?
It goes boing. But what is boinging?
They're few and far between particles.
Wait. I solved it. I answered the question. Okay. This is the final answer, and then we're going to move on from this before we lose our entire audience forever and they never tune in again. Okay. What does Obi-Wan Kenobi say? He says, no. Oh. He says, the Force is inside everything. What if the Force is inside space and that allows sound to travel through it?
I like that. So the Force, yeah. So the Force supersedes air or no air or any substance. It's literally everything.
And get this. This is where we're gonna just blow everybody's minds, and then we're gonna go and talk about Star Wars properly again. So it just so happens that while there is no matter in space, there is something in space, because we do know, even in our own universe, space does move. Because that was Einstein's discovery, that the reason why a moon goes around a planet is because the planet bends and curves space, causing the moon to ring into that curve that has been bent. Gravitational
pull.
What's the word
Orbit?
for that I'm looking for?
It orbits?
No. Einstein's law of relativity. General relativity.
Oh, okay.
There we go. So general relativity, space is able to bend because there's things called quanta in space. So basically, in Star Wars, quanta is the Force, and it somehow allows sound to travel through. And there's quanta in water, apparently, too. So there was Force. I'm a parody of myself. Wow. In the water, allowing the
Chris, the science corner, science in the corner with
Chris.
You know what? The like electric ball in the background is very on brand for this conversation right now.
I should be like Tesla, and it's moving too. It moves with my voice. See. It moves.
That was awesome. That was the most aggressive clapping I've ever
because
seen.
there's the Force in the air, and I can use the Force to
So would that work underwater?
In Star Wars, it would.
Star Wars, it would.
Or in space, if all the air was just stuck.
We were almost out, Hannah. We were almost out, and you had to drive us back into this hole.
Okay. I just realized.
Let's talk about the situation on Plasmir, Plethir. Wait, what was the name of the planet? Plazir.
What did you say? Plethir?
Plasmir.
That's the new name. Plasmir. Plasmir 17 is the name of the planet. It's canon.
Let's talk about Plazir. Let's talk about Plazir 15. So this is a planet where everything's supposedly perfect, but there's one guy that's trying to sabotage it, and that one guy happens to be the Doc, Mr. Christopher Lloyd.
He's a crazy doctor.
What did you guys think of that?
His character?
His character and just the situation on the planet.
Just it was kind of actually the overall story I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is interesting. This feels like a bit Clone Warsy, cool. Yeah, Christopher Lloyd's actual character I found very bizarre. We got like 2 scenes of him. One was him being like, I'm a good doctor protecting the people. Next scene, sorry, I didn't protect the people. It's like, that was it. That was like all his involvement. It's like, oh, okay. So I guess he's kind of a bad guy, but he's kind of sorry at the end. I don't know. So I don't know. I found that a bit odd. I feel like, I don't know, he could have had more lines, maybe a bit more involved. We see him more. But actually, there's some story points here that I actually did enjoy and did find positive. One of the key things I mentioned in my other review is I loved the involvement of everyone talks about the Count Dooku mention. I loved the nano droids shout out and mention. That was awesome. Cool. I was like, oh, so I'm treading into Connection Corner territory here, but overall, I enjoyed this storyline. Yeah, I like it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah.
Pen?
Yeah, I mean I thought like all of the elements I thought were really cool. Nanodroids, just having battle droids back in a meaningful way, and they, some of like clearly some of them were puppets, some of them were like fully CGI. We have not seen those in years, and I think it's really cool just to see, kind of get this whole thing's never thought I'd see Jack Black and hear him talk about battle droids in a Star Wars thing, but here we are, and it's just great. And I think giving more of a, I don't know, what is going on?
Hang on. This is my battle droid impression.
Hannah's doing her droid impression.
Hey, you're not allowed here. You're not authorized. Hang on, I realize they don't have a mouth like that.
You got the beak.
I gotta get the.
You got the beak, but you don't have to open your hand.
You gotta move it like this. Like
yeah.
this.
Hey, you're not cleared for this sector.
Roger.
Oh man. Oh, the things are
Oh my god,
Matthew Wood, you better watch out. Okay.
Anyway, continue.
Quaking in his boots. I was just gonna say, having Matthew Wood back as battle droids and having battle droid humor was great. Okay, that's definitely like one of the things I loved about the episode.
I loved this. I loved seeing the B1s and the super battle droid B2s. I guess like that was really cool to see them in this context. Something that we don't see a lot of because for some reason there isn't a prequel live action show. Where is that? But thankfully we've gotten a lot of flashbacks, and thus we've gotten a lot of battle droids and things, and it was great to have them in the present like this. That was awesome. And yeah, like I'm trying to figure out exactly what the Commissioner Lloyd, or whatever his name was trying to accomplish, because so he has poisoned the droids' beverages that they recreationally consume.
Yeah. Right.
And he's poisoned it with these things that cause them to revert back to their violent programming. And it's happening in just select areas. Yet it's his job to keep the city safe, and he believes in the city, and he wants to keep the city safe, but he just has a problem with the fact that Jack Black, or the Bombadilla, what was his name? The Bombardier. He has a problem with the fact that he used to be an Imperial officer, and as a result of that, he's trying to get him ousted or something. So I guess he feels like in some way that getting the droids to rebel in this way would reflect badly on Jack Black. That's the one thing I'm trying to wrap my head around. What was he trying to accomplish by his actions? I don't believe.
I feel like trying anybody trying to explain the plot of this episode will instantly sound like a crazy person.
It makes sense, except for his motivation.
Yeah, that's a bit like they go like, I don't know. It could have been a little bit simpler, but it's just like, oh, you're with the separatists. No, I like Count Dooku. He was a visionary. Blah 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 blah. Blah. And like, I like the Count Dooku name drop, but like, other than that, it's just like, yeah, that's a bit much. I mean, I get why they get Christopher Lloyd.
Sorry. Yeah, Christopher Lloyd. That would be something else if that was a CGI Christopher Lee. But that's funny. You have Christopher Lloyd talking about Christopher Lee. So there you go.
Yeah.
Interesting. What's going on here? Some Christopherception going on here. But
Perception.
There's some Chrisception on Christophsis.
Christophsis.
But, like, what is this? Christophsis? There's too many Christophers here. But here's the thing: is like,
but how would they talk though?
I mean, well, there's a lot of crystals there, and they have the Force. So
you speak through crystals, or
yes, I speak through crystals. So, what the heck was I trying to say? That beautiful monorail that was taking them around the city has just gotten jettisoned, and that is my mind. So here's the thing: is like, I feel like what they needed to do is they needed to have a few more lines of dialogue from him explaining how his plan was for the people to get so frustrated with the droid attacks and the instability that they like gave a vote of no confidence for their leaders, because it was explained at the beginning of the episode that the leaders were originally autocrats, were originally like people who weren't voted in, and then the people decided when they were given direct democracy to actually vote to elect them as leaders and keep them as leaders, even though originally they weren't elected. And perhaps this guy's issue was that, you know, he wanted somebody elected who came from the people and wasn't originally a totalitarian dictator of the place, or someone installed by the empire to be a governor of it, or whatever Jack Black was. So, you know, that line of dialogue and exposition could have explained his motivations for creating instability and sabotaging the system, because other than that, it would have been perfect and nothing would have changed. But man, it's like a real stretch for a character's motivation to say like they have an issue with a perfect utopian society where no one has to work and droids do all the work and they just get to have fun all day, and there's no issues except for the fact that the democratically elected leaders just happen to be not democratically elected prior to the election. Like that's one of the weakest motivations for a villain character I've ever seen, and it's kind of shocking. It didn't really undo the episode for me because I just thought it was so funny that you had someone referencing the separatists and in such a mundane way, instead of, you know, being this like crazed like Sith acolyte character or this greedy, you know, money hungry like techno union or trade federation character. You have someone supporting the separatists who's just kind of like an everyday person who's just like, separatist is a pejorative term to you, like that was funny to me, and that got me, and it kind of allowed me to glaze over and ignore the fact that his actual motivations for what he was doing made absolutely no sense.
I feel like almost that they should have, being that we're dealing with Imperial ships and all this kind of stuff and the Empire being out there, it's like couldn't have tied that in a little bit more. Could Christopher Lloyd's character been like a Imperial true believer or someone who's around to cause chaos or whatever else, and kind of tie it into the overall plot versus just this random guy who decides to that, how many years later that he's a loyal follower of Count Dooku and he's gonna oust this guy. And yeah, it's a bit thin.
The thing I do like about it, though, I mean, I agree with that it's thin. But again, the thing that I do like about the fact that he was a separatist and he had that ideology is it shows you that side of Star Wars that we've seen a little bit of, but we still haven't seen enough of, which is the side of where people are swayed by Count Dooku and that people see him as a hero. Like that's something you don't see a lot, because usually he's this mustache twirling villain who, is on all these shenanigans that Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka have to deal with. Like that's usually he's presented in this light where, he's working, for Darth Sidious and taking orders from the most evil person in the galaxy. And then he's giving orders to some of those evil people in the galaxy, like General Grievous. And he has this whole army of robots that are just like slaughtering people left and right. And it's really fascinating to kind of go back to that like heroes on both sides view of Count Dooku that you saw in certain political episodes of the Clone Wars, where like he is a politician, he is an idealist, he is in a sense a freedom fighter of sorts. Like people follow him, people agree with him. He essentially tells the truth in a way that just happens to pit people against each other, but he doesn't often lie. And so it was really interesting seeing a character swayed by that and seeing that side again, because it's not something that we touch on often in Star Wars. So I thought that was kind of cool.
And it makes sense from a real world perspective of just like, yeah, lots of people attach individuals, whether they're dead or alive, most of them are being dead, to ideologies and those ideologies and still saying I'm a follower of this or whatever else. Count Dooku has an effect that the Clone Wars are all over this. Everyone says this feels like a Clone Wars episode. This whole planet is affected by the Clone Wars. It's still living in the aftermath of Clone Wars, even though there's been a war since then. This planet is Clone Wars era droids and is inflicted by someone who is still dealing with a Clone Wars era ideology.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that was interesting. And then the other thing that, that part was confusing, yes, in his motivation, but it was cool to see that ideological, political side to things. But the piece of the episode in there related to that I thought was really well done and interesting was the level of sentience that they gave to the droids. Like we're used to seeing high levels of sentience from droids. Like we pretty much think C-3PO and R2-D2, they're people, they're characters like everybody else. And there's a lot of other droids like, Chopper and BB-8 that fall under that category too. IG-11, like characters like that. But this was like next level to see them having like a droid bar and to see them just like hanging out recreationally and showing emotion and like expressing that they're like afraid that they're gonna get replaced. Like that was some like next level like Battlestar Galactica sentient droid stuff that was going on. I feel like that took it to a whole nother level.
The droid morgue as well.
And having them in the morgue, yes.
They took like a blood test. It's like, what?
Yeah. It was such levels of sentience. It was just like they were a subservient race, but still an organic, sentient, race within the culture. Like that was very interesting. And so like the thing that I thought was really funny about that was when Mando and Bo walked into the bar. I was waiting for some reference to the cantina scene from A New Hope. I'm like, they have to do this because there was that moment when the droids came into the cantina and Wooher's like, we don't serve their kind here. Like, I'm like, they're gotta do this in some way. And so I was waiting for like the droid bartender to say something or somebody to say something, and then the line comes out of I think Din's mouth, like, they're not used to our kind here. And I'm like, yes. Like that's the type of reference I like. Like it's not
That's
over
good.
the top. It's like a lot of people might not notice it, but like it was pretty perfect. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I like the different perspective on kind of the similarly to L3 in Solo, just the whole droid rights thing. I like the different perspective on this. It's not about rebelling against, sentience or organics. It's about like, hey, we were created by them. We just kind of want to do our own thing and be here. And we are indebted to humanity. They keep saying humanity. I'm like, why? There's more than humans in the galaxy, but whatever. But like, I like that. I like that a lot. I like the inspiration of that. I thought didn't act really out of character in some of these scenes of just like how he treated droids. Like, I feel like you're past this, man. Like, why are you threatening droids and talking about, oh, you can't trust droids. This is what happens when you rely on droids. Like, dude, I thought you liked droids now. Like, I thought we got over this in season 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was something else. I thought that was kind of cool. All right, let's do a Ben's Connection corner. Let's do it. It's Tom for your favorite segment.
Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
This will be good.
Okay. So I'm watching the episode right now, making sure I didn't miss anything. Because I'm not gonna sit here and go like this droid or whatever, this droid showed up, whatever. There was battle droids in this episode, guys. Did you notice that? You see that? It was B1 and B2 battle droids. I guess you didn't notice that. Oh, it's Jack Black's in the episode. I guess you didn't see that, huh? I'm not gonna do that, okay? That's not the point of this segment. I'm not gonna treat you like you're stupid. So what I am gonna say is that during the chase scene, in the little town, they kind of hold on one of the shots. There's some speeder bikes in the background. Those bikes are the exact same bikes as the mods from Book of Boba Fett. Remember those colorful bikes, except they're white this time.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. It's random.
Yeah. So yeah, there is a quick shot, and there's some like droids hanging around. Like I think they're just like parked there, but I got the idea that like, are they for sale? Is it like a speeder bike dealership? Like, what's going on there? I don't know. Also, they have this tremendous public transit system. Why do you need speeder bikes? What do you need?
So
there's a tube right there. You can just jump on, go anywhere you want in the city. Why do you need that? Anywho,
they're cool.
Yeah, they're cool. I loved the guards, the royal guards that are hanging around there. They're wearing like these shined up stormtrooper armor. Just that little extra detail, and kind of makes you distrust the, Jack Black and them. Just like, oh no, they're like using the stormtrooper armor. Maybe they're former stormtroopers. I don't know. He was a former Imperial. I liked his backstory. I would love to see Jack Black come back and play that character, because and Lizzo too. Bring back Lizzo. Bring back both of them. Let them rule Mandalore. Come on. That would be great.
Imagine.
And I love that Grogu is a knight now. Do we call him Sir Grogu from now on? Is that a thing?
Yes.
He got knighted.
Well, see, he's not a Jedi Knight yet, but he's a Knight Jedi. That's what he is.
There you go.
So Knight Jedi Yoda, lol. Knight Jedi Grogu.
Sir Baby Yoda.
Sir Baby Yoda.
Christopher Lloyd's character, which I keep calling Christopher Lloyd's character because I literally cannot remember his name. He mentions that the droids were taken from a captured Imperial, a patch of captured Imperial robotics. They were scheduled to be scrapped on the planet Carthan. Carthan is the planet we see in the season 2 episode The Believer, where Miggs Mayfeld is at doing his scrapping
cool.
job stuff.
Damn, I love this segment. This is so fascinating.
Yeah, that's why I do this, man. It's a learning experience
so
too. I only
good.
found this out 5 minutes ago when I Googled it. So I'm learning along with you. And finally, this is not a solid connection, but I'm going with it anyway. This is a real world connection, so let's get meta. The garbage droid you see in the CCTV footage, where he grabs the garbage and just like flings it over his head and just like kind of does this. I swear the creators of this episode are directly referencing a real video from the real world, where you have one of those garbage trucks that comes up next to the garbage can, picks it up, and is supposed to like bump it into the garbage truck, but the thing just slams it back down and the garbage goes everywhere. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. I have to actually look it up, but I swear they're referencing that. I swear that's a full-on meta reference.
Wow.
But can't prove it. I'll have to next time I see Jon Favreau, I'll just ask him. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Boom.
All right. So that concludes this episode of
Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
All right. So we have some super chats to get to, but before we do that, Hannah, you got to duck out early. So let's have your final thoughts and score out of 10.
This episode was really, really interesting. It had some little bits of flavor here and there that I enjoyed. But overall, I'm a little bit disillusioned by this episode, unfortunately. I think there's too much context for me, the context of the season where we've been kind of starting to go, that I just felt like this was an odd place to have this kind of episode. I do appreciate the characters, the different world we got to see. I think there was just such cool elements. But I feel like we're not only putting Skittles in the sandwich now, we're putting Skittles, we're putting chocolate sauce, we're putting marshmallows on a ham and cheese sandwich. So there's just so much to digest, and I don't think I could for this episode. So this is quite a generous, I think, for how much I actually really did not like the impression this episode gave me. But I'm giving it a generous 6 out of 10 for me. Yeah.
Right.
And that's my
6 out of
review.
10. 6 out of 10 from Hannah. Hannah, we will see you
yes
on the other
soon.
side.
Where do we see you? Next week? Why do we forget how to leave? How do we leave this? I'll try not to end the live stream.
You don't leave. Usually
I know. I rarely leave early. This is weird.
Abandoning us.
We don't know how to do this. This is new.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try not to end the live. All right. Well, thank you for having me on. Enjoy Celebration. I'm sure we'll have lots of fun over on the socials, and hopefully lots to talk about next week. Whew, it's gonna be good.
Push the right
All right, gang.
Push the right button. Push the right button. Push the right
I'll
button.
see you guys next week.
All right, we're still here. We good.
It's okay. It's okay. We survived. Somebody left.
All right, everybody, put your final scores in the chat. We're gonna go through the super chats, and then we'll give our final scores, and then let everybody know what the audience final scores are. We got a lot of great. This super chat section is definitely brought to you by Mr. Joel Davis. We've got a lot of Joel Davis super chats.
Couldn't do it without Joel. Come on.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. There's some good stuff in here. All right, so first up, my theory is I feel Filoni being more involved with seasons 1 and 2 must have given John a better sounding board for the creative writing process. This season, John is going solo as Filoni does Ahsoka. So Joel very much in the mindset that there's an absence of Filoni in this season, and it might be one of the reasons why we have some feelings about this. Thoughts?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely. I feel like Filoni's absence is felt, even though I think he still has contributions to the show. He's obviously preoccupied with Ahsoka. So as much as I'm not happy with some of the decisions that have been made, and I feel like the writing could be better, it kind of makes me all the more like excited for Ahsoka. Just like, okay, now what is Filoni been cooking up? What has he been doing all this time? I really want to know.
Yeah, and like before I respond to that myself, it kind of the next super chat really ties into that, which is the episode was but overall I feel this season is lacking deeper character moments and analysis. Something about John's writing feels shallow. I don't really know if it's necessarily shallow, because I like the way they've written Bo Katan this season. Like I think that her character's been developed pretty well. So, and I like the way that they've written Dr. Pershing as well. And I like the way, pretty much everyone on Coruscant has been written. So I think the armor has been really interesting. And so I don't know if I have an issue with the writing per se, but I do agree that it's different. And I think the reason why is Filoni very much is of the George Lucas school, where Star Wars gets very mystical and very emotional. And so, like, for instance, you have that moment where, like, Ahsoka shows up and starts talking to Din. You have that moment where Luke Skywalker shows up to save the day. You have some like really key, big, emotional moments with like Jedi characters that get kind of mystical and ethereal in the last season, and that's definitely not there. Like, you still have Grogu using the Force, but you don't have that like mystic aspect to it. And I think that's one thing that I think people are probably feeling lacking from the season, is how it's kind of really diverged from the Force aspect of this show that was pretty prevalent last season and a big part of last season. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the big parts of it too. Is it's just that there's a different focus on what's being focused on in the writing. Joel also says, I was okay with Din never being king. I never thought it was his path, to be honest. But him giving the Darksaber away felt very hollow. I feel like this is a humble character. I feel like he doesn't want to be a leader. He doesn't want to be the guy. He doesn't want to be the Mandalorian. I feel like he's always been like that. I think he just wants to take care of himself and take care of Grogu. Like, I don't see him as an ambitious character or a politically ambitious character. So him just being like, I don't want this thing. I don't want this responsibility. This isn't me. Like, I don't know. It tracks with his character for me. Another super chat. I kind of wish season 4 of Mando drops the big epic storylines, and honestly, it's just episodic pulp adventures. I think it's where John's heart is. I doubt that.
That's kind of one thing that I've thought about in the wake of this episode, is just like, what is kind of the point of the show? What is it trying to do? What is John's thing? Because it seems to me that he still wants to like deal with, we're meeting Bo-Katan, we're meeting Luke Skywalker, we're meeting these giant characters and dealing with giant storylines. But as I said earlier, it also feels like he kind of wants to keep it small scale still and kind of keep it out. It's just Din and Grogu. At the end of the day, it's them riding off into the sunset on these weird, crazy adventures all by themselves. And I don't know, I guess you can balance that. I feel like the show it needs to find an identity better. I think it's kind of struggling with that right now. And I think, if that's the case, then that's fine. But I don't know. It just I'm kind of disillusioned with the whole thing. I'm just like, where is this actually going? And we're not done with the season yet, so I'm trying not to be too judgmental. But it kind of weirds you out. Just looking at taking face value of just like what's happened and where's the Darksaber, and what is Din's next effort going to be, except just keeping Grogu safe, which I guess has been the whole point of the show from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, That's a big part. And again, we're kind of seeing things through his eyes a little bit, but not as much. There's a lot of moments that he's not been involved with. The show almost feels like it's at a greater scale in that regard. And again, this season has kind of been less about the villains and more been about the the inaction that is enabling them. And kind of along those lines, Joel says, I think somewhere along the way, John changed plans for Din to continue just being the man with no name so Din can go on fun pulpy adventures instead of going down the one true king route. I think it's very clear at this point that Bo-Katan is the one on the one true king route. If that wasn't originally the idea, maybe, but I felt like as soon as she kind of came in, they were kind of going in the direction of her being a leader of some sort. We just weren't sure if it would be an antagonist leader or a protagonist leader, but I definitely think she was on this person's going to be in charge of everything type development. Right. Ahsoka, he says, Ahsoka is going to be the evidence I need to prove my theory that Filoni is a better writer than John. I'm not sure yet, but I'm leaning towards it. Okay, here's the thing about that. I have a hot take. I have a really spicy take. I personally think that Brad Rao and Jennifer Corbett have surpassed Filoni in certain writing skills with Bad Batch. I feel like I've watched Dave Filoni. He's done a lot of great stuff. I love Dave Filoni. He's an amazing part of Star Wars fandom. I want him to continue doing Star Wars stuff. He's one of the best. He has struggled to maintain consistency in his shows. There's never been a Filoni show where I felt like there's been complete consistency, where it's really all completely tied together. Like even the Clone Wars, which ended on an amazing note with Siege of Mandalore, had some pretty wacky spots towards the last few seasons where it's just like, what is going on here? Like Jar Jar is making out with some chick. Like, what is going on? Like, what does this have to do with the Clone Wars? Why? Like, I feel like Jennifer and Brad have done a really good job with their characters and their story with Bad Batch and kind of tying things together and making it so like every episode and every moment of every episode really means something. And not to say that they don't have missteps. I still think that there were a few episodes in the last season of Bad Batch that weren't fantastic that you could have skipped. I understand the point of those episodes a little more now because they were really highlighting Tech and Tech's relationships with Omega and the other Bad Batch members. And I think the purpose of those episodes in hindsight might have been more, just to give us some more time with Tech before we lost him. But yeah, I think that's peak writing. And I also think Andor as well with Tony Gilroy is peak writing for Star Wars. I don't think Filoni is at that same level. I think he's really good at making a Star Wars-y Star Wars, making the type of Star Wars George Lucas would make, as the Clone Wars was a joint project between the two of them for most of it. But I wouldn't put Dave Filoni on a pedestal like that. I don't think Ahsoka is going to be a perfect show, and I don't expect it to be a perfect show. And I don't think it's going to blow Mandalorian out of the water like Joel you might think it might. But we'll find out. It's a test.
Yeah, I mean, like, despite my really not that too many qualms with the Bad Batch, like I think it's probably the most consistently written especially animated Star Wars show that we've had so far. It's really tight. I think that's one thing that, despite my criticism of Rebels had a leg up on Clone Wars, that it was more consistent. It was more, and it just comes with the territory of, we're not telling this anthology story. We're not doing all these different things. Whatever George thought up, it was, we're telling one story with these characters, and that's what we're focused on. And that helps. And yeah, Filoni learned directly from Lucas. So he's on board with that. And he's definitely thinking, if you like George and you like his style of storytelling, you'll probably like Filoni. And that's why I like Filoni. I like both those guys.
Yeah.
And most everything Filoni's ever done, going back to Clone Wars, I've loved. So that's why I'm really looking forward to Ahsoka now.
Yeah.
But he's not perfect by any means. No one is, but I think the animated writers now are like Corbett and Rao, like I can't see a future where they're not like, hopefully in the future, making a live action show, writing a Star Wars movie, something along those lines. They deserve a raise and a promotion.
Yeah. They definitely have hit their stride 100%. And again, maybe, I mean, it's hard for me to say that Dave Filoni's improved. I think he just is who he is. And it's a lot of good, some bad, but a lot of good. Some of the greatest moments in Star Wars were because of Dave Filoni, but then some of the most like, what the heck, what are they doing moments as well were kind of under his watch as well. And it's, that's what you get sometimes. You get a lot of strikeouts when you try to hit a grand slam every time. And that's kind of how I feel about Filoni sometimes. Couple more. Joel agrees with me about the setup, where this kind of season is a setup for the future, for another season of the show, for other shows. But he says he has the one caveat of Ahsoka possibly being a multi-season show where the Thrawn stuff ends as well as begins. That's the big question: is the big Thrawn conflict going to be more playing out in the Ahsoka show or more playing out in the Mandalorian? I feel like they've continued to set up the Mandalorian as the flagship. And because Boba Fett and Ahsoka have both spun off and spun back into it, I think the fact that they had to bring Grogu and Mando's story back into Book of Boba Fett really was telling that, like, that's the main storyline. That's like the Avengers movies, whereas everything else is the side films. And so I expect if there's going to be some big moments with Thrawn, for it to be a Mandalorian season 4 and beyond, and more setup in Ahsoka, but still interesting setup and interesting moments. And it's definitely going to be worth watching, but we'll see. It'll be curious to see how that goes. And then last one from Joel, Count Dooku was sadly a very underutilized character in the prequels and the Clone Wars series. Good to see him finally getting his due. I wonder how much Dooku will need until we say it's too much, because every time we see Dooku, we say this, but we've been saying this a lot lately. Like, he was a big feature of Tales of the Jedi. He had the novel, the like audiobook or audio dramatization about him as well. So we're starting to get a lot more now. So I would say they're doing a good job with him now, but this might be the last time that we're saying that he's
the current crop of writers seeming to suggest that they're appreciating the value of that character all these years later. And despite how you feel about anything about the character, from his name to how he was written in the prequels, whatever, like, he is a prominent character. I think bringing him back in ways and saying, and I think they did well with this episode, what they did with him. So in 5 years, we're like, too much Dooku, no more, please.
So that will conclude Joel's Super Chat Corner. Thank you so much
for Super Chat Corner. Super Chat's in the corner with Joel, yay.
Thank you so much for your support. And also thank you to all the channel members for your support as well. All right, I'm gonna do some audience final scores, and then let's give our final scores. So Joel gives it a 6 out of 10. Brooke, 6 out of 10. This is a running theme here. Matthew, 6 out of 10. Just under that, Voyager, 5.5 out of 10. Francisco giving it a luxurious 2 out of 10. Also signing off for the night. Good night, Francisco. Thanks for hanging out with us. All right, Ben, let's do it. Final thoughts, score out of 10. After talking about this for almost 2 hours, how do you feel?
This has been my therapy session. This is therapy in the corner with Ben, trying to figure out how the hell I feel about this episode. Because, like I said, I I did enjoy this episode for what it is. I don't want to make it seem like I hated it, because I did say some things on the Discord that could be construed as maybe even quoting myself saying worst episode ever. And I do not stand by those comments. Okay, it was 3 a.m. and I was very emotional. So I take those back. And I will say there's a lot to love about this episode. It's funny how most people on the internet are like, oh, it's too many cameos, it's too weird, whatever else. I'm like, yeah, I mean, whatever. This show, we've had celebrity cameos since literally the first episode. That's part of the show, and obviously just the weirdness and the craziness. Yeah, it's Star Wars. It's the Mandalorian. Kind of have to come with it. I love Jack Black. I love Lizzo. I love Christopher Lloyd. I love the battle droids. There's so much to love about this episode. And if I was just like, and going on to the Mandalorian, storyline and having Axwos and Bo-Katan fight was great. I love that Axwos is back. I was afraid that all those guys, we may never see them again, and now they're back in the show. That's really great. Seeing the, even the opening shots with the Mandalorians driving around in stolen Imperial fleet, like, that's really cool. All this is set up, and it's setting up for a really interesting finale that I'm really looking forward to. But it was that last like 3 minutes. Like everything before that last 3 minutes, I really, really like, and I like where it's going. So if I was just grading that part of the episode, everything but the last 3 minutes, I'd say 9 out of 10. Maybe close to 9 out of 10, 8 or 9 out of 10.
Wow.
But that's not the full episode. You have to include that last little bit. And because that last little bit, I'm going to have to knock it down to a 1.
What? Did I hear that right?
I'm not kidding either, okay? I've put a lot of thought into this. 1 out of 10. That is my final official score.
That is one of the lowest scores I think one of us.
The one star is compensating, like it's doing a lot of work there. It's for Jack Black and everything. Okay, but the Darksaber incident is just too much. Okay, it's too much, guys.
Dang, that's like a Last Jedi Rise of Skywalker reaction there. That's wow. All right.
Oh boy.
Okay. This. I still don't know. how I'm going to rate this episode. I'm going back and forth on different concepts. Okay. So, yeah, my final thoughts are that, first of all, this episode, there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to talk about. And that's good. That's a mark of a decent episode, that it's like, makes you think and makes you have feelings and react to things. And sometimes art isn't about satisfaction. Sometimes art is about just making you look. And this episode definitely made us look like, what is going on right now, to the very end with that scene. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate the visuals. I appreciate the references. I appreciate the cameos. I think they ranged in quality. I think that I was hoping Lizzo would have been given a little bit more experience acting in other things prior to coming into Star Wars. That's the way I'm gonna say it.
I didn't even know she did acting.
Yeah. So that was a bit unfortunate for me. But so can't be a perfect episode because of that, because of just the lack of exposition about the motivation of the antagonist. Like, there were some things in there that, I'm just like, okay, that could have been cleaned up so easily by casting somebody different or adding a few lines of dialogue. So it wasn't perfect, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I was okay with the way they headed off the Darksaber. In fact, I was excited. I felt vindicated because I had that theory and my theory came true. And so that made me happy that I analyzed the that previous episode correctly about what they were doing. So I had good feelings. I ended the episode feeling good, not depressed, not sad, not angry.
It's a good day. It's a good
yes,
day.
I was the opposite of apoplectic, but I was okay. So I'm gonna say that this was a 9 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
It was close to a 10 out of 10. As I was watching the episode, pretty much until the some last few lines delivered by Lizzo, and until that kind of climax with Christopher Lloyd, I was going for a 10 out of 10. And the way that it ended was 10 out of 10. It's just I got to take off a point for just the acting and the writing and the exposition. Like, it wasn't perfect, but that was a 9 out of 10.
Excuse me, Francisco. I just gave it a 1. We're too nice. We're too nice. At least
I
one
think
of
this is a royal you guys. I think he's referring to me.
Probably. Also, why are you doing still up? I thought you left.
He had to stay around for that. But anyway, our scores still average out to 5 out of 10, which is a freaking low score. And then you have to
This
throw
is gonna
Hannah's in
bring
there.
my overall season average
Yeah.
way down. When Dominic does the math, it's gonna be wild.
Oh yeah. But
I regret nothing.
Oh my gosh. All right. So that'll I think that'll do it for this episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. Strapping for celebration. That's what's up next.
Literally a few hours. Let me see. Let me consult. Actually, I don't know if I don't think I have it properly set up on my countdown. It says 13 hours. I don't think that's actually accurate. I think it's less than that. But
we're so close.
We're fast approaching. It's almost 11 where I am. I know Celebration. The first panel starts at 11 at 5 a.m. my time.
6 hours.
11 a.m. local time. So we're fast approaching. I'm not gonna get any sleep tonight. Not a single wink. All right, I'm gonna have a hard time getting to sleep, and then I'm about to wake up at a ridiculous time just to watch this stupid trailer, whatever they're gonna drop on us. I don't know, the Ahsoka trailer or new Taika Waititi. Maybe he filmed his movie already, and there's a trailer for that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited. Again, I won't believe anything until they say we're filming something, but I'm excited to pick apart whatever they talk about over the weekend. It's certainly going to be interesting. Well, Ben, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for hosting. And then there were two.
And then there were two. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate everyone sticking around and listening to my ramblings and helping me through this difficult time in my life where I had an existential crisis watching a Star Wars show. Yeah, that's me. That's my life. So yeah, this was a lot of fun, and we got 2 more episodes of Mandalorian. We're going to have a gargantuan amount of Star Wars news to discuss next week. It will be coming out in a matter of hours. So definitely check on the socials. Definitely follow us at the SWU on Twitter. I'm sure there will be some live tweets. Dominic said he didn't get into any panels, but knowing him, I have a feeling he'll weasel something out. So maybe he'll at least get, maybe he'll sneak into one of the panels. Maybe he'll be able to live tweet or something if they don't take their phones away. And you'll get some updates on that. And then obviously follow at the SW on Instagram, and everywhere really, but you'll get them the fastest on Instagram because he's posting them to Instagram, and then I post them everywhere else because he has a hard time doing that. And it's hard doing it on the floor. But yeah, this was fun. I genuinely cannot wait for next week. We're going to have so much to talk about. I don't even know how we're going to fit it all in because we're going to have an episode of Mandalorian and all the news, and it's going to be crazy. But can't wait.
Awesome. So we'll be doing that again in 7 days' time, as Dominic likes to say. But you can follow Ben at Ben Hart with no E. And if Dominic ends up posting anything on his personal accounts, I know he posted a wonderful visit to Stonehenge at Dominic J25. is where you can follow him. And you can follow me at Seek3PO. Also, special thanks to Hannah and to Kieran for contributing to the episode as well. cultureslate.com/store. That's where you can get the shirt I'm wearing, the We're Doomed shirt. Make sure that you subscribe. Huge thanks to everybody who super chatted with us. Huge thanks to our channel members. Huge thanks to everybody who's subscribing, leaving reviews on podcast apps. Don't forget about the SWU Network Discord. We got that Marvel movie night coming up this week, so make sure you join that. Make sure you hit the link that's in the description of your podcast feed episode or in the description of your YouTube video. I know you're not all in there because I see how many people listen and watch to our show, and I see how many people are in our Discord. So download Discord. It's the new thing. It's where we all are. It's where we all hang out.
It's an actually tolerable social media experience, okay? Yeah. It's actually people that you want to talk to as opposed to just people that are a little bit frustrating sometimes. Anyway,
it's great. It's a great innovation in social media. Definitely check it out. And to make sure you check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside, Canon, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. All right, that is it. We are out of here. For Dominic, Kieran, Hannah, and Ben, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.
There we go.